So this is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, then go back. Let me be a link there.
So we were just sitting and talking, and another really, really, really helpful shift of perspective and distinction is about what relationships look like as far as like duration, like length of time. Like where the old school way of looking at relationships is you meet somebody, fall in love, and you're with them for the rest of your life. And years ago, that might have actually been the norm based on the acceleration of the planet and what was accessible with consciousness and this whole evolutionary experience we're experiencing as a society, as a culture, as a civilization. That might have been relevant back then. And the exception to the rule back then might have been the you're with somebody, with a partner for a certain period of time, you grow, you learn, and then you bless each other, say goodbye, and then move on to the next partner who has a relevant nugget key for your development. However, nowadays, I feel it's shifted so that the paradigm of I'm going to meet the person, the love of my life, and then I'm going to be with them for the rest of my life is a bit outdated. And it's not impossible. I think it's very, very relevant for people to still have that. But it's more an exception than the rule. It's like switched. And what's more the norm now, whether people are realizing it or not, is the coming together to grow, to learn, to be with each other. And then there can be a time where there's a completion. And it could be that we come together, I have an accelerated experience, my partner doesn't, then it's no longer a match, so we decide to go our separate ways. Blessings on that. But even when there's two people who are like on the cutting edge of their development, they can still be like, and this was the aspect of connection that was relevant for me, like why we were meant to come together. And blessings in this big experience of love, and now we part ways. And why I want to bring this up is because I think the media and movies and just how the mainstream thinks about relationships is still, and how it portrays relationships, is still based on this old school paradigm. So I think it can be very confusing for people when they're in a relationship and they feel this love and dropped in connection with somebody, and then something shifts. And it's not that your stuff comes up and you get all triggered and so you just want to like take the shortcut out and like ditch the relationship. That's almost like obvious nowadays, hopefully, to like work through your stuff. However, there's times where it naturally can come to a resolution and then move on and part ways. And that can also happen within the same communities of people as well. And with communication, with like authentic relating, this can be a really rich, very, 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 very accelerated journey. If we don't beat ourselves up for being a failure, that it wasn't for the rest of our life, or some story like that.
God. I'm also taking this in because it's so relevant to my experience, and so most of you guys probably know, but if you've been following for a while, know about the recent divorce happening and stuff. And for me, because I'm such a devoted person, I said to my now ex-husband before we got married, I said, I'm not doing this twice, like I'm all in until we die, and this is it, you know that, right? And he was like, yeah, me too. And that was the feeling, like, okay, this is it now. The search is over, and this is it for the rest of our lives. And when that didn't happen, because life for us in this accelerated time, as well as being committed to really getting clear and awakening and getting conscious, that didn't happen. So our relationship dissolved, and I had to go through like such thick layers of feelings of being a failure and like messing up and screwing up and not getting it right and should have done things differently. And I was noticing all my conditioning coming up around this feeling of you meet someone, you find the one, you get married, and you stick together. And if you stick together, you're a success, and if you don't, then it's a failure. Whereas the truer and more expanded perspective that I feel now is more that journey was perfect for us. Like, if I look back at our relationship and our marriage, it was so incredibly deep and fast and intense and nourishing and opening, and both of us have come out much clearer, much wiser, much more loving as a result of being together. And also if we don't look at relationships in terms of a limited perspective of we're in relationship or we're not, but more a feeling of that there is a certain structure to a relationship, and then that can morph into something else, but there's not actually a cut in connection. So right now there's more of a friendship being experienced and explored between me and Toby, between me and my ex-husband, where we keep staying in connection, not romantically, but keep on communicating and caring for each other, and keep on, in a way the journey continues. It's just that the form is different. And that's also a new paradigm in a way, that, you know, when people talk about, oh, I can never be friends with an ex and whatever, but in recognizing that there is something so deep and beautiful that brought us together, and the depth in that is still here, although the form of it has shifted.
That is beautiful.
Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And it's not to say the transitions on a personality level are, oh, okay, this makes sense, I get it, piece of cake.
Oh no, fuck, it hasn't been easy, but it's just the recognition, like the love really
Right.
hasn't gone anywhere, and there's a totally different, like we're in different countries, we used to be like this, and now there's a totally different arrangement in terms of geography and space and all of it. But if I tune into my heart, it's just the love hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't been diminished. It's just as deep as ever before. It's just a bit of readjustment into a different structure, you could say. And not even structure, because it just is what it is, moment by moment by moment. And that again ties into what we were speaking about in part 1 of this, about letting it grow organically and evolve, and giving it space to actually breathe, and sometimes change in terms of the structure of how we're relating, without that feeling or seeming like a failure, but just that, okay, so this is what's true now, this is what is the most aligned way of relating at this moment. And when we can just trust the process of that, and stay with an open heart, and stay loving through the changes that occur, even if it feels turbulent, then we can keep on discovering the new gifts and the new gems and the deeper layers in that, because we have been very intimately connected, we know each other very, very deeply, and so we can see each other and mirror each other really clearly in that, and then that keeps on being of value and keeps on being a gift for our continued exploration and evolution through life. And one more thing I want to add to what you said about the new paradigm, or the way things are going now with acceleration, is that yes, the norm now seems to be like we come together with someone and we learn and grow to a certain depth, and then there might be a dissolution of the relationship. However, I do still believe, not believe even, I know I have seen this, it is rare, but definitely it is possible to meet someone when there is such a match that you can keep on growing indefinitely with the same person, and keep on going deeper, deeper, deeper,
Yes.
deeper, deeper. And that is fucking beautiful. And at the same time, if that doesn't happen, to not see that as a failure.
And absolutely, and the way that I feel that will happen is not if somebody is, okay, we're really going to make this work for our whole lives, unlike all these other people who haven't made it work, so we're going to make this work, and they're looking in a certain regard, like horizontally at each other. That's where I imagine it probably won't work out as well. Where the relationships where people are connected for their whole life and they're actually happy, they're fulfilled, they're enlivened, they're juicy, those are people who are connected and aligned with their path. And to be really general, I could say vertically and horizontally, so to speak. But they're connected with their path, with their inspiration, with their mission in life, and they're walking their path. And since they're so empowered in that fulfillment, there's somebody who's such a match, who's also in their empowerment, walking their path, living through their inspirations. And it's almost like, by chance, they happen to notice they're still walking side by side each other. You know, they're not looking at each other trying to make it happen that way. It's just they're living their truth, and there's such an alignment of theme that they're, wow, we're still walking next to each other, and every day's a choice. Wow, let's still walk next to each other. And so if there's any sort of, in closing, any tip that I would offer is the freedom of, with all the things we've talked about, in one sense, all you need to do is be as honest as you can with what's happening for yourself in any given moment, and share that to the best of your ability. You could hear all these perspectives and paradigms, but ultimately in any moment-to-moment scenario, just be aware of how things are impacting. Just be as honest as with yourself as what's happening. And then share that to the best of your ability, and life will orchestrate around that level of truth-talking and that level of authentic beingness.
And if I could add some ingredients into the recipe for what I, from this perspective now, see as a recipe for the possibility for something like that actually happening, is really the ability to stay honest, truthful, in integrity, in vulnerability, and to share from that place, as well as to keep on being in alignment with our own path, with our own growth, with our own connection to source and to life itself. And the more we focus on that rather than focusing on trying to get a partner, the more life will just naturally match us up with someone who can actually meet us there.
Beautiful.
Guaranteed.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So as always, thank you for watching, thank you for tuning in. Any comments, insights, ahas, epiphanies, genius flashes of inspiration, welcome in comments down below. If there's anything you want to reach out to us and share personally, you can always do that. And wish you a great day.